morning to all of you. This is Mehul Bambania. I hope you will be safe in this corona time when the India touch 60,000 positive case per day. In this challenging time, we can extend our boundaries through this online platform of engineering nature. In the very first part of this lecture series, I had explored the applications and necessity of computational fluid dynamics in the engineering field. The objective of today's session is to understand the foundation pillar of computational fluid dynamics, that is fluid mechanics and heat transfer, the mathematical equations involved in that physics, and various numerical methods through which we can solve the partial differential equations. And finally, after understanding all this, we reach at a top, that is the computational fluid dynamics. I try to discuss this all fundamental pillars within the time frame limitation of this session. In the later stage, we can explore it in detail through dedicated session on each topic. Now, very fundamental aspect of computational fluid dynamics is fluid mechanics and heat transfer. At least this much understanding of properties of fluid mechanics and heat transfer, as well as the nature of phenomena of heat transfer and fluid mechanics is required. When we talked about the fundamental properties of fluid mechanics, it can listed in this way, where we should aware about the density, viscosity, surface tension, gravity, compressibility, etc. If it is the heat transferred problem, at least we should aware about the conductivity, diffusivity, heat transfer coefficient, emissivity, etc. The understanding about conductivity will allows us to understand how heat will be penetrated in solid materials. The idea about thermal diffusivity will help us to understand the temperature penetration in the fluid. The heat transfer coefficient will guide us heat carrying capacity of the fluids. Emissivity can be related with the nature of radiative heat transfer. In the similar fashion, at least we should aware about the different nature of fluid flow as well as the different nature of heat transfer phenomena. When we refer any fluid flow as ideal flow, it means it doesn't have any friction among the two layers of the fluid. However, it is not the actual case. In the actual, the fluid always consists certain viscosity nature, and because of that viscosity nature, the friction is exist always. Steady flow and unsteady flow can be referred in terms of the property and variable change with respect to time, as well as compressible and incompressible flow can be defined in the respect of the speed of that flow. If it is the case of multiphase flow, which contain liquid, gas, as well as solid particles within the flow, it is found that in the case of heat transfer, conduction, convection, and radiation nature of heat transfer is observed. Conduction can be referred when heat transfer will exist in the solid. If heat transfer will taken place within the moving fluid or stationary fluid, it will refer as a convection heat transfer. Any surface having temperature continuously emitting electromagnetic waves is referred as a radiation. Let us explore boundary layer concept in fluid mechanics. When the fluid flow over the flat plate, it is found that at the vicinity of the surface, the velocity of that flow will zero, which will refer as a no slip condition, as well as when you observe the velocity value perpendicular to the surface, it will increasing continuously and reach at a free stream value of that velocity. This perpendicular distance will referred as a boundary layer thickness in this case. After the leading edge, the boundary layer thickness is continuously increasing in this fashion. It will reach at a constant value after certain distance, after certain actual distance referred as a fully developed length. Now it is observed that in the upfront portion of this flat plate, the laminar flow will observed and it is form a laminar boundary layer. In the downstream, that laminar flow will converted into turbulent flow and it will form a turbulent boundary layer. Moreover, in the turbulent boundary layer, the buffer zone and viscous sublayer can be represented like this. Now instead of flat surface, let's consider a curvilinear surface in which the flow will pass in the downstream direction. Let's consider few points A, B, C, D shown in figure. Up to point A, it is observed that the pressure is continuously decreasing along the fluid flow. After point A, due to curvature, due to increase in this area, the velocity start to decrease after point B. Now after point B, we observe that the positive pressure gradient along the length. Because of that, we observed negative velocity gradient along the length. That negative velocity gradient ultimately leads to zero velocity when the fluid will reach at zero velocity gradient at particular point. Like in this case, it is a point C, referred as a point C. So after point C, this fluid stream will not able to flow by sticking with the surface, and that point is referred as a separation point. From that point, fluid will separate it out with the surface. There are a certain region in which due to negative velocity gradient, the flow will travel in reverse direction called as a reverse flow. This reverse flow will create a vortex in reverse direction, and ultimately this zone is referred as a wake zone. The characteristic of this wake zone is it contains negative pressure within it. So to understand the flow behavior, one should have understand about the boundary layer thickness as well as the separation condition on the particular surfaces. After understanding the boundary layer terminology, there are two different methods through which the motion of fluid can be described. That is Lagrangian methods and Eulerian method. To understand the nature of fluid flow, one should have idea about various fluid flow properties like pressure, velocity, and temperature. Now to calculate that property, we can have two different methods. Like in Eulerian methods, one can sit on fixed location, and on that fixed location, he or she can observe, he or she can measure the various fluid flow properties. Now in second approach, one can travel along the fluid flow, and during that he or she will measure the fluid properties. We can also understand by this way. In Eulerian methods, we are fixing the volume and observe the change in velocity, density, pressure, temperature at particular point. That is called as a control volume approach. In the case of Lagrangian methods, we identified certain amount of mass and continuously observed the behavior of that mass with respect to time. The idea behind highlighting these two approaches is one should have understanding about which one is the appropriate ways to describe the physics of the problem. Most of the problem can be described with the help of this Eulerian approach. However, there are certain problems in which this Eulerian approach will not work. So there are certain cases where we have to go with this Lagrangian approaches. Now, as most of the fluid flow problem can be analyzed with this Eulerian approach, let's look into next part, which are the governing equations involved in this approach. These are the fundamental governing equation which will describe the nature of fluid flow, which will used to calculate various fluid flow parameters, primarily pressure, velocity, and temperature. These are the conservation of mass equation or continuity equations, conservation of momentum equations, conservation of energy equations, and equation of state. Let's look one by one. Conservation of mass is generally referred as the continuity equations, which states that within the defined volume, the mass will conserved. That means whatever mass you supply at inlet must have to come out through the outlet. If we considered one-dimensional pipe, so mathematically the mass flow rate can be calculated with these equations. That is rho AV, density cross-sectional area into velocity, that is the one-dimensional velocity. It must be equal to the outlet mass flow rate, that is rho 2 A2 V2. But the actual nature of the fluid flow is not one-dimensional. It's have always component in the y directional as well as z directional. So when you consider the multi-directional velocity component, your continuity equation will convert it into partial differential form, where your velocity component partially depend on x, y, and z component. So this is how the partial differential equation form of conservation of mass is given over here, in which density as well as viscosity, velocity is a partial function of x, y, and z. Now this is the complete equation to investigate three-dimensional unsteady compressible fluid flow. If we have incompressible fluid flow in which the density is remaining constant, we can eliminate these terms. If we are dealing with two-dimensional flow, we can eliminate z direction term. So this is how we can simplify continuity equations. Next, we are having momentum equations. If we considered fluid element as a solid, then according to the Newton's second law of motion, force is equal to mass into acceleration. Now that acceleration term can be elaborated by dv by dt. Now this fluid element have certain motion. That motion is due to certain forces acting on that fluid element. That forces can be divided. One is body forces, another one is surface forces. On the right hand side, if we are considering all the forces exerted on that moving element, then equation is look like this, in which it is considering the pressure force, viscous force, the gravity force, force due to the rotation, that is centrifugal force, and magnetic force. However, general case of the fluid motion consists this many of forces, consist pressure force, viscous force, and gravity force only. So by considering these three forces, the momentum equation can be given in this way for x momentum, y momentum, and z momentum, where this side will represent the mass acceleration terms and right hand side represent the total forces acting on that fluid element. It shows that u velocity component depend on x, y as well as z. V velocity component depend on x, y as well as z. So it is in completely partial differential form. In the similar way, we can have energy equation, which is the statement of energy conservation principle, which says that energy will neither created nor destroyed. It can change its forms only. Figure 6 indicating the control volume in which the certain amount of mass will enter into the control volume, which consists the energy in form of enthalpy, kinetic energy, and potential energy. This much amount of energy will enter into control volume and leave out through the another side of this control volume. However, this is open system, so mass as well as energy will interact within the control volume in form of heat and work. So it is concluded that all governing equations are in partial differential form. The complete sets of equations is referred as a Navier-Stokes equations. If we are considering all probable forces acting on the fluid element, then equation become quite difficult and complex. However, these all partial differential equations are in non-linear forms. So it is not possible to get solution with the help of analytical approach. To overcome these problems, there are several numerical methods we can use, which will give the approximate solution of this equations. So now let's look into third pillar of CFD, that is numerical methods. As we mentioned that Navier-Stokes equation contain non-linear partial differential equations. So it is quite difficult to solve analytically. To overcome this problem, we need to divide entire control volume into smaller number of pieces, manageable pieces. And this process is referred as a discretization or mashing. After dividing entire control volume into small number of pieces, we can apply various numerical methods for getting an approximate solution of each volume or each element. Each volume or element are in continuous communication with their neighbors until we are not reached at a complete solution. Ultimately, various discretization methods can be used to convert partial differential equation into algebraic form to get an approximate solution. And this can be solved with the help of computers. These are few numerical methods shown over here, which is finite difference method, finite element method, and finite volume method. What these three methods will be? In case of finite difference methods, we had identified different point locations and the governing equations will solved for that particular points, which is located at certain distance x. In case of finite element method, entire volume will be divided into number of small elements. Now governing equations can be solved for each individual elements and solution will derived through integrating for each individual elements. Now in the case of finite volume method, entire space can be divided into small number of small volumes. Now governing equation will be applied at the centroid of the each individual volumes. After calculating parameters for all individual volumes at a centroid, the final solution can be derived through the integration of all values. So this is how approximate solution can be calculated with the help of these three different approaches. Now this calculation is done by means of a computer or a computer softwares. So now let's understand the chronology. Followed by computer softwares. So these are the steps involved in computational fluid dynamics softwares. Primarily, it is referred as a pre-processing, solution, and post-processing. Here I want to explain this with the example of elbow. This is simple elbow through which the fluid will pass through. Now, if we wish to find out the flow behavior inside this elbow, first of all, one should generate the geometry of that elbow. The dimension information of that elbow is required. Now here, I want to make you clear that this all are inner passage dimensions which we have to consider. The profile or domain which we finalize for this elbow is referred as a fluid domain, which will not consider the thickness of this pipe material. It is only considering the domain or space through which fluid will travel. Once you identified the fluid domain, you have to discretize it. That means you have to divide it into small number of parts. That is called as a creation of meshing. So this is the second step. Once you mesh it, software don't know where is the inlet, where is the outlet. So at least you have to specify the condition at all boundaries. Like in this case, there are inlet boundaries and outlet boundaries we are having. So you should define the inlet condition as well as outlet condition of this elbow. Once you assign the boundary condition, according to the boundary condition, the fundamental governing equation will be implemented on each and every parts or each and every volumes of this domain, and the calculation will start. So the solution process is done by means of solver, which will solve the governing equations and find out the parameters for each and every individual part. So once the solution is over, you have enough information about various variables like pressure, velocity, temperature, etc. on each and every individual cells and volumes. So based on that information, you can retrieve the results of variables in form of contours or plots or animation. Since the bunch of information calculated by solver is so much, so one should have to decide the priority of the result, and that is what referred as the interpretation of results. So this is the way to solve any fluid flow problem in any kind of CFD softwares. So with this, we are going to conclude this session. You can also watch first part of this lecture series on computational fluid dynamics through the link provided in the description box. You can also join my channel, that is Engineering Nature, for next video lecture in this series, in which I will discuss about different meshings condition, different boundary conditions, and different solvers options available in the Answers Fluent. So stay with me. Goodbye. Take care.